All right. Try that again. There it is.
All right. So we're good.
We're good.
All right.
We're not gonna do anything.
So we're good to go.
Yep.
All right. So I hereby call this meeting of Milburn CC School District 24 to order at 7:06. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll, please?
Jonathan Renson,
Here.
Brendan Murphy,
Here.
Peter Petrini, Jillian Phelps.
Here.
John Ruggles.
Here.
Brad Scottro.
Here.
And Lisa Rooster. Here.
All right, rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right. All right, board, do we have any addition of non-action items for tonight? None, we're moving through, all right. 6A, approval of cash contribution agreement with Lennar Corporation for the Heritage Park Development in the amount of $1,861.02 for each 3-bedroom townhome building permit.
I move to approve the approval of cash contribution agreement with Lennar Corporation.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
It's a roll
Roll
call.
call. All right, call the roll.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Brad Scottro.
Yes.
Lisa Rooster.
Yes.
And John Renson.
Yes,
Motion passed.
great. B, approval of seal coating bid to Patriot Pavement Maintenance in the amount of $27,496.26.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. We need a roll call. Because it's one.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Brad Scottro.
Yes.
Lisa Rooster.
Yes.
John Renson.
Yes.
And Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Approval of asbestos bid to Kinsdale Contracting Group, Inc. in the amount of $31,950.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Madam Secretary?
John Ruggles.
Yes.
Brad Scottro.
Yes.
Lisa Rooster.
Yes.
John Renson.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yeah.
And Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Approval of Red Apple license agreement for fiscal year 2025.
Did we go over this once before? Not, this year, we did last year. This is a yearly renewal that we have to do in order for them to rent space. So it's a different,
Or for them to rent space from us.
yes. Yep. So if we have, are they using 2 rooms?
2 rooms.
So they lease 2 rooms from us. And we get a portion of their profits in order to rent the room. So we provide cleaning services and that's about, and heat, light.
And they
rent.
charge them,
What's that?
and we charge.
And we charge them, yes. So it's a not, again, we're a school district, we can't make money. We're not a for-profit company, but we can recoup our costs, and that would be like our mortgage payments. You go against that, so the cost of any building, we would use that to offset costs, heating, lighting. And we'd have to, because we have space, we'd have to be heating and lighting those rooms anyway, so our cost is pretty low. And it's good for our teachers to have a preschool in the building. A lot of our teachers use the service and parents too, who have children who are already here and their younger siblings are right there in the school building. So it's a convenience for parents and definitely for teachers as well.
Do we do that for everybody who uses our building? Or just for certain people?
We wouldn't lease it to anybody. It would have to be, we lease it to Red Apple because they're an educational service during the school day, so we're a little bit more picky, obviously, about who can lease space during the school day. They would have to have an educational function or an alignment of function with us. In the past, we also leased to a private therapeutic day school. We leased 4 classrooms for quite a few years in one of the wings to a private therapeutic day school. They were completely separate from us, but they were in our building. So because Red Apple is DCFS certified, so we have to, they have to come in and inspect, DCFS does every year, make sure the building's up to code. They're doing what they need to do, so.
I just know that our church uses the school for our CCD classes.
Yes, so in the evenings, it's a little bit different rental system, so. And that's a not-for-profit,
So that's not anything we vote on, so we only vote on this because there's.
right? Because it's an individual entity and it's during the school day and and they're a private business. So the board would vote on the rates for rental, building usage rental in the evenings. So we rent space to the basketball programs, volleyball programs, soccer programs, baseball programs in the evening, the gym space, and classrooms to churches in the area. So the evening stuff is a little bit different.
That's not
We just
gonna
have a
help.
set, we have a set application process and the board votes to set those rates. This one's a little bit unique because it's during the school.
Move to approve the Red Apple license agreement for fiscal year 2025.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. It's gonna be minutes, that's roll
Fred
call.
Stepstrom,
Yes.
Lisa Booster,
Yes.
John Lorenzen.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yeah.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
And John Burns.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Right. Approval of the 2024-2025 school year calendar.
Move to approve the 24-25 school year calendar.
That's right.
Roll call.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. All right, consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
This is everything on here, right? The
Right,
hires and
yeah.
everything.
Everything, 6F, essentially. Need a roll call vote?
Lisa Booster.
Yep.
John Lorenzen.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Jillian Phelps.
Yes.
John Reynolds. And Fred Stepstrom.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Information discussion, activity and registration fees.
Okay, so on to the discussion. We're not voting on anything tonight, but continue to discussion on it. So we had the board asked me to go back and calculate how much it would cost per household for if we eliminated all of our fees for athletics, clubs and registration. And that came out to about $12 per $100,000.
$99.
$11.94.
$100 a year, basically, for the average home. So if you're
$300,000 home was $100.
$100.
99.
So that's, what's that?
More than I had thought.
It's a chunk.
So if your home is valued at more, you're gonna
You're gonna pay
pay
more.
a steeper registration fee.
$600,000 home would be about 20.
Yes,
That doesn't add up to me. Does it say 12 bucks per 100 grand, but then a 300 grand is $99? Like why? Did you understand my confusion? So
Like
it says
36
$12 per
times
100
the
grand,
fif- Yeah,
I would think 36, right? Oh, no, to generate 100 grand for the district, so because we're 300, so that triple that, right? Okay. I think.
No, I can do the same thing. I calculated a couple times and then sometimes I confuse myself on it. but it's-
It's rounded, because I think it was like 270 or 280, right? And you're
Yeah.
saying if you needed 300, so take that 12 times 3.
Yeah.
So it's 36 per 100,000 for,
Yeah,
if we were to
times
say
three, which is
everything.
fine. Yes,
If we said just the registration was free, it'd be obviously a lot less.
right.
Yeah, just the registration fees, 'cause that's, is like 2/3 of.
I
The
thought it was the
activity,
other way around, I can't remember.
I
So
thought
reg-
the activity fees were about 1/3. That,
Yes.
Okay, so the registration was 2/3.
Registration fees, we charge about $200 per student and we collect about. We have 1,100 kids, so if we collected 1,000, it'd be 200,000. 1,000 families paid for their students, it'd be $200,000.
What do you guys think?
I think it's too much.
I think it's about twice too much. I was thinking
Right.
if it was like $50 for 300,000.
Right.
Wouldn't hardly feel it. Cause there's a lot of hoops that are.
well, if we just do the registration fee instead of the activities, then we're looking at 66. And if we drop the fee in half, like, so if we drop the registration fee in half to $100. And, keep the activity as the 33.
What if we just do a flat rate for everything at $50?
Yeah, you can do anything in between.
I mean, I really like having no registration fees. That's where I stand on. In public schools, it's where you have to go. And I know everybody has a registration fees, well,
I know,
in our
that's-
area, not others.
That's how I feel about it. Everybody has one, so.
Do schools that have, like 20 million in the bank, like Stevenson, do they charge registration fees still?
They do. So ironically, as you were having this conversation, there are professional groups. IASBO, you might be familiar with that. So the business managers will shoot out questions to other business managers. What are you doing in this? So one question that came up since the last board meeting was, does anyone have a family cap? Which I know we've discussed or the board has discussed that in the past as well. So if you have 3 kids, would you cap the fee, activity fee or registration fee and not charge after the 4th kid or what? So a couple of the school districts responded. One of them that responded, Lake Bluff, which is probably a school that's a little bit financially better off. They kept their transportation fee, and that was interesting to me. We don't have a register or a transportation fee. So they cap it, it's $200 for the first student, $125 for the second, 0 for third and above of kids. Other schools, Park Ridge, no family cap, classes at that point now. Woodridge, no family cap. They froze their registration fee since COVID, meaning they were increasing them year after year. So just some things to think about that school districts are also getting fees in different places where we're not. So transportation's a really good one. Even with our activity fee, we're not charging a transportation fee. So just wanted to share that there was the family cap conversation going on. We're right in line with, with in terms of family caps, what other school districts who responded are doing.
How does that work then? They say, okay, no matter how big your family is, how many kids you got, you're gonna pay, let's say, $400. Registration and all activities. Once you hit 400, you're never paying again.
Well, sure. So like with that transportation, so some of the schools have no family cap, meaning there's no cap. They're just, if you have 4 kids, you're paying $200 for every kid. But the transportation fee, their example was they charged 200 for the first student, 125 for the second, and then 0 for third and above. That was their transportation schedule. So, and I point that out too, when we think about fees, we have our registration fees, our activity fees. But Milburn does not charge transportation fees. Some school districts do, at $200 a kid just to use the bus. So that's one place where we have no fees.
And from the books that I was reading, because we have no public transportation around here, and because everybody who lives over a mile away from school, and because there's no public transportation, we are required to provide transportation too. So other, places like Lake Bluff, Park Ridge, they have more available public transit, so that they would be able to charge the fee
I
then.
don't think that's the case. I actually was in a transportation webinar Friday, and there was chat of all schools. It was a recommendation from someone to help with school funding on the transportation side, charging every student $1 or $2 a day for transportation. So it wouldn't matter if there was public transportation there or not. It's just, again, I think what's tricky to see is really how much something costs or takes, whether it's transportation or say an activity club. When you really get into like all of the different components of it, if it's a salary of a driver, a teacher providing, that extracurricular activity and then the supplies, what it takes to fund that activity or service that we're providing.
Yeah, just in one of the training manuals I grew up reading that about the buses.
Yep.
They pass new laws all the time.
I don't know, we have to solve it at this particular meeting. I know we would have to, if we want to do a referendum, we have to do it quickly, but we're really talking about the 2/3 of we're really talking about the 2/3 that don't have kids in school, because if you told me for $100, you have no activity fees, no student fees. If you have a kid in school, that's a no-brainer, because you're paying more than that, you're paying double that just to register a student. So we don't just want to shift the burden. Okay, I have kids at school, you don't, I'm just gonna put some money on you too. I also think this 100 is too high.
Yeah, I think so.
But I don't think 50 is.
Would you be
Because I
open?
mean, I just go back to one of my neighbors and a couple of friends I have, 3 kids.
Could we look and see what it would be if we had a flat rate for all activities and registration at $50? Would that be something you'd be open to?
Naturally, I do it as having kids at school. It'd be fantastic. I'm thinking more like people who don't have kids in school. And I was shocked that, I thought it'd be more like 50-50 until you told us the numbers.
Maybe that's a thought exchange.
It's on.
So you would want, so people that don't have kids in the schools, you would ask them to pay $50 in their taxes.
Well,
So
it'd have
even
to be
like-
for every
So like the 55 plus community, like they would also have a $55 increase.
$50.
Yes.
Everybody
If-
in the community would have a $50 increase. Now, everybody's getting a huge tax break next year, I assume, right? Because the bond had paid off. It's not something, $50 over 12 months, we're talking $4 a week. To get our public schools closer to free like they're supposed to be.
And if it goes to referendum, voters, the community will ultimately be the deciders of it.
They can always say things.
Yeah,
I don't know if the community would back that, to be quite honest.
yeah.
I just think there'd be a lot of backlash. To be honest, like asking.
Do you think
a-
that? I'm only, and again, I only have my point of view. I mean, if someone asked me for $50 for our kids to go to school and play sports, if I didn't have kids, I know, and this is just me, I would say, here's 100. But that's me.
So.
I-
Go ahead.
No, I just agreed, but I just also think if we're rolling out a referendum, if we plan on doing it again, what we were discussing, were we discussing for earlier referendum, like
Yeah.
later? Then that would be 2.
When we're just doing what later?
It would be the same.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
yeah,
It'd be in the same.
And it's not a direct, dollar for dollar. It's not like we can just go and ask the taxpayers for this 50 or charge them $50. It would be part of a whole package and understanding, so. But to understand the balance, yes, it's easier to talk in these terms. The question is, I have heard this over and over again, it's the concept. So when when my kids are in school, it's a lot easier for me to pay higher taxes than when my kids are out of school and I'm not connected to the school at all anymore. So that's why I would agree with Jillian's perspective of once my kids are out of school and I'm done with school, I want my taxes to be as low as possible, and every dollar hurts. And I'm just speaking from what I'm hearing and what I've experienced. Are there some people that would differ? Sure, that'd be fine. But that would be a tough, running a referendum would be tough if that was the message that we were sending to the community is we're gonna spread the load out even more, because it's already spread out pretty heavy.
What about the message that your community, your kids are paying double, many times triple the activity fees that the surrounding schools are? Because that's where we're at.
But I don't think, for
Ox
example,
pays $50 for basketball, we pay one.
right, but if you're retired and moving up into Lake County, like some of the subdivisions are coming into, I don't think those individuals are seeing that, right? They're not thinking of that because they're more thinking they're wanting to retire in Lake County for different benefits. So I think they would rather place their money in a different box where those that have children are gonna be thinking of that. But I mean, I think honestly, the registration fee that we have is fine. I mean, if anything, maybe increase it a couple dollars, just because I know it does go to our kids, and at the end of the day, that's our mission as the board. And I do know that I have 2 children, so I do know that's where my taxes are going, and that's where my money wants to be. But when I do retire at whatever age that may be, I may not see school that way, because like Dr. Lynn said, I'm thinking on, like, I'm on a fixed income. I have certain taxes that I want to go to, maybe Social Security or different benefits that are going to be beneficial to my age at that moment.
If you're concerned about that for $50 more, and you're gonna retire and you don't wanna pay for schools, I would submit that Lindenhurst is not the place.
I agree.
Why would you come to
100%.
Lindenhurst? Because I always say, why in the world would you live here if you don't have kids in school?
Don't say that too loud, man.
I mean, like,
Those houses in
Look at all the communities that are being.
I do it myself. I'm gonna do it myself, but I mean, this isn't where you come to retire and not pay for school. I mean, everybody comes here for the schools, and our taxes are ridiculously high compared to surrounding communities too, so we're a little bit
Correct.
different.
Yes,
Again, it's,
But you have families that are moving in that are retiring here in Lindenhurst. So I think it's, right, I mean, and there's gonna be another one, and there's a couple more, and, if you, I mean, I think the community's changing, right, a little bit differently. I just think you also need to just like think about that before you ask them to pay another thing on top of the tax. Even though there's a tax relief now, we don't know what the economic future looks like in 5 years.
I agree, but as more come in, I mean, we get more money, right? I mean, we just passed something where we're getting $1,800 per anyway.
yeah, so
Hopefully, we're getting more business to come to Lindenhurst. I mean, be able to, hopefully, they
So that's
reduce
a- that's
that.
a-
Rate is low. They'll start moving.
And I'm just saying, if it's something that we want to address, this is the year to do it, because your taxes for the same house probably going down, you said close to $2,000, right? And to say, look, they're only gonna go down 1950 is a much better.
Well, I think looking at things in terms of how much of a tax burden is it when we charge this much money is a good thing to think about. But when we're talking about the budget overall, the tax rate that we want to burden the people with, we don't want to tie it to individual things necessarily. We want to tie it to judgment of sound educational processes. And then, as we go through and we discuss, because we'll bring these fees will come up every year. And we always have an opportunity to change them every year. And so next year, we might look at our budget as a whole and say, all right, we're solidly in the black. let's take some of that and reduce some of the fees or something like that.
That's true. It doesn't go right on the referendum as, okay, we're charging you $50 to lower the fees.
Correct.
So it's a great thing to think about, and it's really nice to see how this change in fees affects people's taxes. But it's not necessarily, we want to tie those together.
It's a small enough amount, even, I don't know that we would need a referendum if we're allowed to do that 4% we were talking about before anyway, and it's such a low amount.
That's true. So we may not, and to your point, John, if as new developments come in and that those additional income helps offset some of our costs, we could always look at reducing those fees. So that's always a possibility.
That's a good point.
It doesn't have to relate necessarily directly to a referendum. But all I'm saying is that I'm trying to have.
No, I hear what Julian's saying. You take it up $12, they're gonna be like, $6.
A philosophical conversation about it's all a tax. When do you want to pay? So it's easier,
And who should pay?
and who should pay,
Right.
right? Who and when? So all of us should pay the basic here, and this goes back to earlier years when we were had to prioritize in a much more real way than we have to now. It was, okay, what's our core academic offering? That's all that the taxpayers are gonna pay for. Parents, if you want something more than that, while your kids are here, you're gonna pay. Because there was no other option. That's it. We're in a little bit different environment now. Which is nice, it's good. We've had some good things happen with state financing and with some additional taxes in our community, so good things have happened. Will that continue on? I don't know. We don't know, but we're in a different place than we were at that point. So yes, we could look at those fees coming down. But I'm just saying that at some point that could change quickly and we'll be back to that point again.
And one of the
That's
things,
gonna be in 2 years, probably.
when Jason and I have our pre-meeting meetings, one of the things, Jason brought up was, you go over to the park district. And they have fees for everything. You're already paying taxes to use it. Like, but you're paying a fee to walk the track. You're paying a fee to sign up for basketball or do daycare or whatever on top of your basic tax bill that we get every year. So, I mean, it's an addition to our basic taxes, are these activities.
But comparatively to the park districts around us, I think our park district fees are pretty low. So, but our school activities, sports activities fees are pretty high. So when you just look comparatively to others,
Yeah.
I mean, if my son plays park district basketball this year, it's $120 for the season. He plays feeder basketball last year for the high school was $800, so.
I think that's a better argument going, hey, are our fees really in line with the actual price in the current market? If kids they can join a basketball team for $120, and we're charging $150. We're not gonna have our best players on the team. They're gonna go off somewhere else. Do we not let it happen? So the band program and theater program are really strong. But if we lower the fees, we'll get more students and more students will be able to get that benefit. But then we're gonna have other people going, why am I spending money on this? And so it's an argument back and forth, but a big argument is if we got the core education paid for, and then there's still money available, and you start going where are our next areas of importance.
Yeah, and those are optional too, though, like Fred was saying before, registration fee is an
That's
option.
not,
You're going, so you're paying.
and these things all shot up when less money in 2008 when everything flat. Everything shrunk and fees went up, and they haven't really come down since. And now that the economy is better and people have recovered, that is a really good discussion, but we can start lowering those fees or at least talking about it.
I agree with you. I hadn't thought of that. I think that's probably a better bet.
And we are doing strategic planning for it.
Just to circle back to the transportation, I just want to clarify, you're right. So if the transportation's mandatory, we cannot charge for it. If it's an activity fee, and I believe every year when we're talking about activity fees, we bring up buses, or I recall that in the past, where, you'll vote on waiving that fee again. So that's just another place where it's just a place where we've never, since I've been here in the past several years, seen a charge for an activity transportation fee, which is a plus for the community.
It's true, the fees we charge do not actually pay 100% of the cost for most of our curriculum, but that's the part of the school community. And the part of the educating the whole child that we talked about in the strategic plans. You know, what does that mean? Does that mean that Spanish teachers that we brought in? Does it mean having what kind of extracurriculars are we offering and how many kids can take advantage of it? Because it's also, you know, a hindrance for some families when the fee is $150. When I came in, you know, I told my kids to try everything and they went out and tried everything. We talked about a max on family fees and Jason and I were like, well, we're about the only two families that are gonna benefit from this because our kids do everything, but you know, that can be a real burden for a family with 3 kids a year. 300, 150 for each kid, 3 sports. That's real money. So. If we lower the fees, it allows more students to participate in more things. And see what they like and what they might want to try and put into in the future. Because I know my kids, I would not put my kids in band, but they love it. And they're doing it in college. So, you know, thanks to having the opportunity here. They've got career choices that they make. It's worth the money. Keeping up this home.
And if a referendum does get run, those have expiration dates, right? Or is that not right?
Depends on, yes and no. It depends on what kind of referendum you run. There's different types of referenda that we can talk about. There's operational, and then there's called a debt service extension base that would be going, and that would go out into perpetuity. Debt service extension base, a lot of districts already have it because there was some moment in time when the state froze everybody or something and said, okay, whatever your debt service is, you can always levy up to that amount forever. That would be amazing if that was us, like, if that snapshot was now, we could levy up to 5 million a year. We wouldn't. But we could then have that flexibility to levy up to 5 million a year for that, which some districts have. Amazing. Melbourne has some, I think it's $64,000. Is our debt service extension, so we could levy that, but that's not gonna get us too far.
When's the last time we did a referendum for,
2013, and it was operational.
that's a good streak. Let's keep it.
So we had, we ran a referendum in 2011. Or 12, one of those years, it failed. And then we ran in 2013 and passed. Prior to that was 2004.
So once in 20 years. Pretty good record.
Every 10 years, we're coming up on.
Yeah,
We're coming up on the next one here, right? So Illinois, the way funding works in Illinois, um, referenda typically are expected to last 8 to 10 years at the most, as far as your revenue stream. So you have the levy and you have a big gap that next year after you pass a referendum, and then it slowly erodes away because of the tax cap districts, which we are. You can't go past CPI, which for many years was 1.9%. The actual cost of education grows more than 1.9% a year. At some point that catches up to you. So that's just the way it's designed. That can be a positive, because you have to go back and justify to the taxpayers what you're spending your money on every 8 to 10 years. That's not a bad thing either. So with the fees, I guess the question that, again, we're not voting on it until second meeting in February, but we'll have one more chance of discussion. It is, do you want to keep the fees as they are? Do you want to reduce them at some level? What do you think that number might be? I'm okay no matter what. We'll just tell you all. That is true.
These kids are out of it. No.
I just have to figure it out. Now, I tell you, hey, the consequences of that may not be worth it.
I hear what Jillian saying. The people who don't have kids in school, they say, well, you're on the board, manage your money better. Don't ask us for more.
Yep.
Totally get it. Maybe I'd say the same thing.
Well, people tell me that every year. So.
all right, let's go to budget projections.
So, Carly and I have been working on budget projections. Again, we showed the board a very preliminary one. Last week that Carly did, or 2 weeks ago that Carly did. We're working with, Forecast 5, which is a company that does projections and has software that helps do this, that can track our budget. So we're working with them. Last week we had a meeting with him, ran our first projection. It looked goofy, as it usually does. We go back, we go, okay, so there's something was either entered twice somewhere, which often happens. So it takes a few runs before we're comfortable comparing it to what Carly has and comparing it to what we know is realistic. And then we go from there. Say, okay, this is something that we're comfortable with and are willing to present and able to present to the public and to you at the same time. So we will continue to work with that hopefully next week. Then by the next meeting, we'll definitely have a solid projection ready to go for the next 3 years. Once we project past 3 years, it gets a little goofy. Really tough, especially on the expenditure side, because in a budget, because we have 1,200 or so line items in our budget, different codes that we charge to. If we are, when you put in a budget, you'd say, okay, next year we're gonna spend $100 on Kleenex and we only spend 90. Well, if you do that, and that's only $10, it doesn't seem like much, and you're gonna wanna use that same number again. Well, if every 1,200 line item is that far off, you're 10% on the budget. That would be a significant amount of money when it all adds up. We're not, we have been, so we track what percentage are we to budget to actual every year? And the highest it's ever been, it's been 10%. We've been as low as 0. And that was a few years ago. And we're usually around 3%. We shoot for 2. So if we're within 2% plus or minus, I think that's a pretty good year. We've always been on the plus side. It balanced our budget. So, which by policy we are supposed to do it until we can't, which is gonna be probably not this year, but probably next year. Probably not next year either. I think we'll be okay next year. And it gets tricky when you start to project multiple years because things compound either bad or they compound good. So we usually see a graph that starts out good and then plummets. That's because it's compounding negative effects down. Or you see a graph that does this and then all of a sudden it scoops way up, and that's not realistic either. We try to be as accurate as possible, given what we know. But those little amounts of money multiplied millions of times, it makes a big difference.
Additional staffing in special education.
So this is just an FYI for the board, next year. We looked at our staffing thoroughly, and we talk about staffing at this time every year. We are anticipating the same FTE next year moving forward. Exactly the same, that's 100, we're around 106 FTE with, that's our certified staff, which would be our teachers and our educational support personnel, which would be, no, not ESPs, what are they called? What's that?
Related services.
Related services, that's the word, or related services. So related services would be your psychs, social workers, OTs, PTs. Those staff. So all of those combined is about 106, and we've been steady the last 3 years with that. And we anticipate that moving forward. So staffing looks to be the same. What we were able to do with that, which is why I put it on the agenda tonight, just for your information, when there's always adjustments that we make with staffing. You might need a 3rd grade teacher one year, and depending on the enrollment, next year they go to 4th and so on. This year, we're shifting from the regular ed side to open up another classroom at the primary level, specifically for autism. So we see we've got a big need coming into kindergarten first next year. There's a kind of a bubble of students with greater need that we're seeing. So we had this, we're looking at how can we split the classroom or split up the workload and the caseload there. And we're able to add an autism classroom to help that workload. That's great for us. That helps with programming. There's a possibility that we may be able to tuition in a student or two from another district for that, with that profile in our area. We've done this before. We currently have a student in the middle school who has been with us for a very long time. Who's she's 7th grade.
She's actually 9th grade.
Oh, she graduated? So we have done that with several students in the past, and we'll continue to do that, where we will take somebody from maybe a Grass Lake Rapids who just needs a spot, and they're so small they can't provide those services, where we have room in a classroom and it works out. We'll do it. We've done it with Burning 56, we've done it with Antioch, we've done it with Grass Lake and Evans. Wales. That's about it. So that helps offset some of those costs as well. Which makes us look like we spend more per pupil than our neighboring school districts, relatively speaking. We still don't, but we're higher than we used to be, but part of that's because of those extra classrooms that we staff, that we provide services.
Do we already have a teacher for next year that will lead that room, or?
We do not, so we will be advertising for that. Good question. So Adams, have you posted? Have you posted yet?
No, but we're gonna post first.
Will it be one teacher, or you think it'll be like a team of teachers, or, I mean, I'm sure it's probably still preliminary, I was just curious.
Yeah, for this class. Teacher. Special education teacher.
But we have several teachers retiring this year too, so that's how we're able to post it now. So people are retiring from a different spot in the district, but it's the FTE that will follow the special.
Are we competitive with the better special ed teachers. Like today, hey, if I have an opportunity to go to Millburn, because I know the pay is pretty good, it's a good culture over there, or are we on the low side?
Yeah, I think there's different pieces of that question, the culture and Millburn. About Millburn.
Yeah,
There's a good Millburn vibe. Hey, it's on, how long?
Last year. Yep.
Recognize the 5 years of experience, just in general across the board. But knowing that some of these positions specific, this one is exactly. So we talk about experience, specialized. It's still good, we can recognize it for 10 years of experience. Will help.
Yeah.
Yes. for sure.
And we're not as high as some districts with our compensation. Higher than some, not as high as others.
Pieces versus.
Reputation, that was-
Yeah.
We do have a good reputation. And if we pay high, throw it on the head to get the teachers, to
Yeah, I
get
think
the
for
draw.
for staff, teachers that have been working in other districts for a while, just understand. I think. Tricky part is, yeah. It's graduating from college. I think that is very well. And very close attention to the.
Just that you just don't want to lose them as you get them. I mean,
Yeah,
that,
no,
that
that's
that
10
costs
years.
even more, so.
That 10 years of experience, acknowledging that.
Yeah, I think the advantage that Melbourne has is the staff that we already have, the highly professional staff that we have here, that people want to work with them. So that's part of that culture component. Is when you get on the staff and you recognize that you're with colleagues who care about kids in their profession and want to grow, that says a lot. So we're fortunate that we have the people here already. And we want to bring people in that will match that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So it's all part of it. Compensation is part of it. That's important. We'll be addressing that, I'm sure, in the near future.
As long as we're talking about teachers, I noticed we just approved a lot of substitute teachers. Are we still having a push for substitute teachers and bus drivers, or are we getting where we need to be?
I don't know that any district ever says they have enough subs.
Okay.
Right, Rachel?
But I know we were telling everybody, go ask if you know some subs out there. Getting there.
We're in better shape than most, and we have been in better shape than most for a long time.
Bus drivers too.
Bus drivers were in better shape than most, but we still looked for them.
Would be great to have one more.
Just more.
One of our new drivers that we hired a couple months ago, she just completed all of her training. So now she just gets to go for her license. So soon we will have another sub, which is great.
Yep.
But one more driver, you know. Someone.
I asked her to do it.
Yes.
All right. FOIA request.
Okay, you can see that we have a FOIA request posted there as required.
Okay, future agenda, hearing to waive the state holidays.
So the calendar that we just approved now, in order to actually operate it, we'll have to waive state holidays for next year. There's a list of state holidays that are in school code still. And so we have to waive them, and then for certain holidays that are named, for example, if we didn't have school on Martin Luther King junior day, we'd have to have instruction on Martin Luther King Jr. For Veterans Day, we have to have instruction the day before, the day after, the day of on Veterans Day, which we did. So there's certain holidays that require specialized or special instruction if you have school on those days. Not all of them, just some of them, so it's very confusing.
Semi-annual review of closed session minutes and destruction of audio tapes more than 18 months old.
So that'll be in February, so at the committee meeting, you'll get the packet to look at, and then at the regular meeting, you'll give back the packet with any comments or suggestions or questions.
Budget projection. And then over that,
Yep, and the calendar.
and the calendar. All right, superintendent report.
Okay, well, a report on the second grade classrooms that have been out of commission. The three of them that were out of commission last week are fixed and they're back in their classrooms. Hey, Mrs. Coleman. Now we're switching to the other side of the hallway and two of them are displaced. One's in the media center, which is why we couldn't have a meeting in there. Because we want to rearrange the classroom yet again and redo that. So hopefully by the end of the week, actually by the end of tonight, it was a possibility, but I think he got quite done. So in the next few days, that'll be wrapped up and done. Carly submitted an insurance claim, so hopefully that all gets handled because this job will probably be around $40,000. It's a lot.
So with our budget, do we budget for stuff like that? We're like, okay, we're gonna have 3 of these per year or something like that.
So there's money budgeted for emergencies, but as Dr. Lynn said, something like this typically is covered, most of it by insurance, like a pipe break or things like that, so, we should be fine,
Just pay the deductible.
right? Absolutely.
Our
Yep.
insurance premiums will probably go up next year. Possible.
Got rid of that.
I have a question for the board about summer schedule. June 11th. We have a board meeting scheduled. Would you be okay canceling that meeting?
Any particular reason or?
Yes.
It's summer.
It's
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah,
I have a potential plan on that day and would be absent. I would be out of town.
Aren't we also missing one in
July.
July?
Yeah, we usually only have one in July.
Right.
It's big one in June.
I second Jason's
Yep.
motion.
I agree.
Yeah.
But like, it's not a vote or anything.
No, I know.
We can still leave it out. Just
Cool.
hang out.
You could just think that. Okay. Thank you.
Information discussion. June.
That's all I've got.
Carly, you're up.
So just one thing, the first few things in the report are just the approvals that, the board already approved earlier tonight. We scroll down towards the bottom, medical, dental, vision, life insurance costs. So I attended the Cooperative 90s Health and Dental Board meeting last week. They covered their audit, so everything was looking good on their side. But this point of the year, what happens now is the cooperative starts working through what the cost increases of insurance will be for next year. So in the next board meeting, which is the end of February, we'll get the initial numbers from Blue Cross Blue Shield, Delta Dental. And then from there, the cooperative and the board works together with Alara Group, who is the administrator of these benefit plans, to work through any potential plan design changes to help mitigate the cost increase. So usually these plan changes are not very noticeable to plan participants. An example of one last year would be just changing a specific drug offering. If you were going to have a new prescription, they do something called a partial fill so that you would only get a partial prescription fill to see how the medication works for you. The February board meeting will be going through the cost increases, possible plan changes, and then in March, we'll know what the actual cost increases to the benefit plans are. And I share this because last year, if you recall, if you were on the board, the benefits increased over 12%, closer to 15. And so what that meant was a $200,000 increase to the district for the year. So as these next two board meetings come up, I'll share with the board what the changes are.
All right, board report. Anyone do anything fun during this wonderful weather?
I went to a school safety meeting. It's a little disappointing in the turnout, actually, but I mean, they had more presenters there than we did community members, when they came and talked about the internet safety. And I was a little, I was upset that I wasn't able to make the outreach meeting before that. And had I made it, we would have had a grand total of 1. So that's not working out so well, is it? The thought
The
exchange,
focus groups, yeah,
yeah,
we'll figure out another way,
yeah.
keep trying.
I know we approved the thought exchange, the money for the thought exchange, yeah, is it working for other things? Or? Not really. Keep trying.
Keep trying.
Yeah, I'll say, please come.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I too went to the internet safety thing that John mentioned. One thing that I felt was nice about it, they had a lot of the Sheriff's Explorer Scouts there. It's a program through the scouting program. It has 14 to 21-year-olds and kind of lets them see a profession and try it out a lot of times. And when they apply to be on certain departments, they might get a couple points credit or, if you have a lot of people applying. So it was nice to see, out there. I don't know if any of them were Milburn alumni, but to see youth get involved in something like that. I went to one of the strategic plannings, but it was just myself and former board member Jim. Just he and I hanging out with Jason at the middle school there. But we had a good conversation and talking about, things. And then at one of the IASB meetings, they had, if you're interested in doing a legislative advocacy ambassador program. So I filled out the form and they said they will take my experience and we have our first meeting, I think in 2 weeks. So the goal of that is to basically use your efforts to bring issues important to Illinois school boards, to the local legislators. And I don't know that much about my responsibilities there, but yes, so.
Good job. Thank you. All right, adjourn to closed session. We have no closed session to discuss, so we need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.